Fallout 4. It may not have the wasteland vibes of Fallout 3, the intricate writing of New Vegas, or the ability to play with friends like 76, but what it does have is decent combat. That's right, none of the jank from when the series first tried out the FPS format, nor the lag that comes with an online game. Just good old-fashioned, acceptable FPS gameplay. With that in mind, I decided to make a build all about utilising that average combat system, a character that would gather some of the best weapons and armour in the game and use them to full effect. And with that, the Technician was born. Special for this build is Strength 4, Perception 4, Endurance 2, Charisma 1, Intelligence 8, Agility 7, and Luck of 3. A healthy dose of intelligence will increase XP gain, making leveling faster. Agility will innately make us stealthier, more stealthy, less likely to get shot when crouching, and will also add to our action point pool, good for both sprinting and bats. Everything else is pretty low, meaning this character isn't going to be passing most speech checks, carrying every item they find, or tanking bullets from level 1. You're going to need to focus on getting some easy level ups early on to get the perks you'll require to survive. Remember how I said the Technician was born from wanting a character who would use all the best weapons in the game? Well, that was a bold-faced lie. He was actually born when I decided I wanted to make a build based around the Awareness perk. Awareness allows you to see the target's resistance stats in VATS. This means you can work out if it's better to focus on ballistic or energy damage when fighting certain opponents. Or you can play the game like me, and forget to ever use the perk, even when you streamed it over multiple days and then playtested after. Fortunately, there still is a passive bonus you can get from this perk at the second rank, granting an extra 5% damage and chance to hit in VATS. Maybe not game changing, but hopefully enough to be worth it. Onto the perks that actually ended up defining this build, starting with Rifleman. This tends to be my go-to damage perk, not only affecting non-auto rifles but also shotguns. Bonus damage, armor penetration, and chance to cripple. This is everything you want a damage perk to be. We aren't going purely semi-auto for this character though. Next stop is Commando. This will cover all the rifles and shotguns that Rifleman didn't. Alongside the damage boost, you can expect to hit more shots while hip firing, and occasionally stagger your foes. Those two aren't the only weapon-specific perks we're grabbing. We've also got Gunslinger in order to boost pistol damage. It will also improve pistol range, give a chance to cripple, and can even make it so you disarm enemies, which may be the best reason to use a pistol in this game. Half stepping away from the gun perks, we've got Demolition Expert. You'll need to pick up the Perception bobblehead before you can start investing in this one, but once you do, you'll unlock new explosives to craft, see a throwing arc, and get a bigger boom. Finally, in the damage perk category, we have Bloody Mess. It's extra damage. For everything. By now you should be able to tell this guy's all about dealing damage. And with the damage perks out of the way, we can move on to Gunsmith, the first of the crafting perks. And the reason we take this is to upgrade our weapons to make sure they deal the most damage possible. Anyone keeping track of how many times I've said the word damage? Alongside Gunsmith we have Science, helping to improve weapons, but also unlocking some additional crafting options when it comes to armour and settlement items. Of course, to really max out how effective your armour is, you'll need Armourer. Yep, we're maxing this out in order to get top resistances and all utility options. It's not just ourselves we're looking to upgrade though. Robots help this character out a good deal as well, so I invested in the Robotics Expert skill, meaning you'll be able to mod out a robot companion in any way you want, no matter how dumb or deadly. All this upgrading is going to take junk, and if you want to get the most out of scrapping your items, then there's nothing better than the Scrapper perk. Like most perks in Fallout 4, it's pretty straightforward and grants a near eponymous effect, simply getting you more junk from everything you scrap. That's all the major perks covered, but there were a couple more I invested into just a little bit. Sneak is always a helpful one to have, making you harder to detect. While not being a stealth build per se, this can still be good for getting yourself into the right position before initiating combat, or even creeping past tough enemies early on. If you want to open combat with a stealth attack though, that's where the ninja perk comes in handy, increasing sneak attack damage by a significant multiplier on each rank. We may not have to stay hidden during combat, but there will be times where taking out enemies from the shadows is preferable to open combat, so these two final choices are certainly worth considering. We don't have any set equipment for this build, instead you'll want to focus on getting a variety of the best legendaries you can find. The key is to always be using the right gear for the job. This means it's no good having a dozen slow-shooting instigating rifles and nothing fast-firing or suited to close-quarters combat. You'll also want your armour sets to be customised to fit with the type of encounter you're planning on facing. Gathering as many legendaries as you can find is a priority with his character, so hunt down legendary enemies and save caps to buy the good gear from vendors. In the end, I found that I could get away with 3 distinct equipment loadouts. The first was my normal loadout. With this, I wore the armour that had the best armour values. I then saw that I looked like a dystopian sci-fi trash can, so went with the second best values instead. I carried with me the staggering shotgun Justice, a deadly big iron in the form of Kellogg's pistol, and the ultimate answer to crowd control, spray and pray. This gave me easy lethality in short to mid range, all with weapons I felt comfortable using. Additionally, I had a stealth loadout. This started with a full set of shadowed legendary combat armour. Then I had Old Reliable, Overseer's Guardian and Wastelander's Friend, all with suppressors attached. I was originally planning on using the Deliverer with this loadout, but I managed to piss off the Railroad and they refused to play nice with me, so I may or may not have massacred them all on stream. You'll have to watch the VODs to find out. With these 2 loadouts, I'd be wearing and have equipped one, and the other I would store away with my follower. This meant I could change between the 2 from encounter to encounter if I felt switching things up would be more effective, or just fancied a change of pace. I did want to keep a little character to this build, so I decided to always have equipped a military cap and eyeglasses. This perfectly encapsulates the individual himself. He may have once been a hardened soldier, but the years have taken their toll on him, stretching skin, withering muscle and fading his sight. My final loadout was the power armor one. Tesla T60 from Automatron makes energy weapons deadly, so that's what I went with here. Righteous Authority modded as a VATS-based pistol, Experiment 18A to dish out maximum DPS, and Old Faithful as a laser sniper, able to disintegrate from a range of 100 yards. Maybe further, I have no idea how long a yard is. With this setup, I could deal damage effectively at any range, and was tough as nails, even surviving a mini nuke at one point when I was playing. And all this footage is very hard difficulty as well. This isn't like, I just throw it on very easy, look at how good the build is. No, I tested this on very hard. This build actually surprised me just how effectively it worked. Anyway, only real downside with this power armor loadout comes from a complete lack of stealth. But that's to be expected when you're a 6'6" walking tank. On to factions now, and here I went my standard route of trying to help out everyone. I may not have been successful with this, but it's the ideal path to walk. You want everyone to be fighting for you, not against you. Most of all, you want to be able to get as many legendaries and uniques from the factions as you can, in order to improve your ever-expanding arsenal. If you do want to complete the main story with this character, then the faction I would ultimately side with would be the Brotherhood of Steel. They're a military-first faction which would be familiar to this old vet, giving him some sense of structure and familiarity in this strange new world. When it comes to followers, it's pretty similar to factions. You'll get the most out of it if you get everyone on your side, having about a dozen people to help you when needed, and from whom you can gain unique perks if they like you enough. Sadly, very few of these followers seem to come with missile launchers for arms, or face lasers, so you may also want to consider building yourself some robot followers. I personally modded out Ada as a deadly combat robot, who had a decent amount of carry capacity, perfect modifications for a wasteland wanderer. Codsworth on the other hand got switched up to be a spotter, identifying targets and giving everyone he passes the side eye. This is a combat-focused character, looking to gear up to survive whatever the apocalypse can throw at him. You aren't a die-hard Minuteman, or a lifelong Brotherhood of Steel admirer. You're an old man who found themselves 200 years in the future and will need to revert to his past military career in order to forge out a life in the cruel new world. From the equipment section, you'll know that this build will use combos to get the most out of gear. Tesla power armor and energy weapons is an obvious one, but I found plenty of other items complement one another nicely. For example, Justice and Kellogg's pistol were a go-to pairing for me. Justice would stagger any enemies I came across, and, if they were strong enough to survive a shotgun, then I could quickly switch to my pistol and shoot them in the head for crazy damage. Both weapons are well suited to keeping on the move, meaning you can rapidly clear most locations by charging through and firing fast with these guns. The apocalyptic landscape of the Commonwealth may have been entirely foreign to most who would have walked out of Vault 111, but to the technician, it was sadly reminiscent of days best left forgotten. All his forefathers had served in the military, so it seemed like the only logical thing for him to do once he reached adulthood. His early years in the military were relatively peaceful. Conflicts would occur, but he was often left stationed in the US, keeping the same routine on base for months at a time. It took no grand deeds or heroic stories for his success in the US military, instead only requiring him to follow orders, provide input when needed, and show proficiency at the tasks appointed to him. Often referred to as an ideal soldier, his military life was as good as most could hope for. In time though, the world started to take a turn for the worse. Things seemed small at first. Newspapers mention oil, countries talk with one another about the possibility of an energy crisis in the future, and before you know it, the military is taking control of surrounding countries in order to keep everyday life unchanged for civilians. The resource wars were hard on the technician. He had started to grow old, but still felt his place was with the men, fighting when needed and doing what had to be done to keep America going. Cynicism had started to take a hold with age though, and he would often wonder if the American way of living was worth any of this. Young men from poor homes dying so that another Robco exec can afford a new Corvega. After one too many recruits were lost, he left the army behind, being old enough to retire and seeking to live out his final years peacefully with his wife. It took some time to readjust, but his wife retired a few years after him, and they lived happily together. It came as quite a surprise when she fell pregnant, but they saw it as a blessing, and put their all into ensuring the child would grow up healthy and happy, even going so far as to order a Mr. Handy to help with the raising of the child. But just as things were starting to look up, everything came to a close. Nuclear fire burnt away life from the surface of the world, leaving those buried below to return to a scorched earth, one where danger lurked around every corner, and only the strong could survive. He had tried to start a new life once already in his old age, but it seemed like the world only had one path for him to walk. With a sigh and a furrowed brow, the technician marched into the future, not knowing what awaited him. We know what awaits him though, don't we? He'll try to find his son, end up at Fort Hagen, and kill Kellogg. It won't even matter if he understands that Kellogg was simply following orders, and there's someone else to blame. Kellogg has to die, and that's the only option available. But what if there were more options? Ones where you could save or even convert Kellogg to your side? Well, that's exactly what my last video was about. I rewrote Fallout 4 to save Kellogg took a lot of work, and honestly took a fair bit out of me, hence this video taking a little longer to make, and also why there's likely not going to be another full video for at least a couple of weeks. Please do go and check that out though. I'm really proud of how it turned out. It's been getting a lot of likes, but sadly it's not been picked up by YouTube, so instead I'm asking people at the end of the build video to watch it, cause you won't see it otherwise. Anyway, I think you get the point. I really want you to watch that video, and if you do, it might mean I can make more videos rewriting quests, or even future theory crafting in a big way. As for this video though, thanks for watching. Please do leave a like if you enjoyed, consider subscribing if you're new to the channel, and join the Discord or follow me on Twitter, @BadCompanySarge, if you want to know when I'm going live. Previously I would have said to hit the notification bell, but I may as well recommend divination to find out when I go live. I'm definitely rambling now though, and ruining the watch percentage, so I'll leave it there. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.